You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy. Don't save her. She don't want to be. I'm just kidding. But this week on Carlie's Couch, we're actually talking about the difference between enabling and empowering, supporting and saving.
Shout out 3-6. Welcome to the couch. My name is Lextopia.
It's a fitting song for your fit right now.
I wanna be saved. Oh, man, I just had an internal conversation about this week too. But anyway, Carlie, hope you're doing well. Say it is so.
Yeah, I am. I'm excited. We have summer camp ramping up by the time this drops. We will be in the middle of summer camp. Shout out to our 8th year with Change the Tune. But I will also say it's really cool because one of the girls who was in our summer camp a couple years ago is now one of our teachers.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so it is amazing to see the work come full circle.
Yeah, you guys do good work with Change the Tune. Shout out Charlie and the team. Those kids really are sweet, and I feel like they really are learning a lot, and, like, even one of them had worked with me before, and, like, it's always fun to go help with that, so that's pretty cool. There was something I was going to ask you too, and now I forgot it, but it was, because it's so random. When you said camp, I started laughing because, and this just came out, so for y'all listening to this, it is gonna be old by the time you hear it. But do you see that Drewski skit today? Talk about vacation, not vacation Bible school, but like church camps.
I have not, but
and
that's
I was
hilarious.
like, ooh, because I went to a white church for
Baby.
a certain part of like middle school. We started going to like one white church, and I was like, them camps be so funny.
Oklahoma has one called Falls Creek, and a lot of churches go, black churches. Some, but like mostly white churches, obviously.
It's
but
like a campsite?
Yes, and you go, and it's like 2.5 hours on a bus, and it's like a big thing. You there for a week. So shout out to everybody who went to Falls Creek.
Yeah, he had that going with the guitar and everything. I said, ooh, yeah. But Carlie's camp isn't really that kind of camp. But they learn their entrepreneurial skills and emotional and mental well-being, all the things. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're shaping tomorrow's leaders.
So tell us what brought about today's topic of like enabling people versus empowering them. And I'm guessing we're talking about like at a friend level or just in general. Like
in general, yeah. And this is like something I have life experience with, and I'll get into that. But specifically this week I was talking to one of my homeboys, and he was talking about one of his friends and how he was like sharing a story. And I was just like, oh, I'm so proud of you for not enabling. Like that is growth in their relationship, and it was really beautiful. And I was like, man, but what's the line, and how do we get there? Because it's taken me a while to get here in a much healthier relationship. So that's why I wanted to chit chat about it today.
Okay, well, my first thoughts would be that it's just so dependent on context. So I'm not sure if I could give like a full like what's exactly empowering and enabling, but I think there's some keys. Start us out with like, what would you call, like, are there any things that stand out that makes you feel like you are actually just enabling?
Yeah, y'all know I love quotes, and if you don't now, you do. There was one, and I couldn't find it for the life of me, even with Google and AI, so y'all suck. But it's about loving someone is not keeping them from learning the lessons that they need to learn. And so I think enabling is anytime you are taking the brunt and doing the work for a person for something they need to be learning and doing for themselves. And then I looked it up, and an enabler generally describes someone whose behavior allows a loved one to continue self-destructive patterns of behavior. I would add on to that definition and say, or patterns of behavior that keep them stuck, which I guess technically could be self-destructive.
Okay, so I'm glad you clarified enabling and said that a couple times and defined it, because now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, like we're not even just talking about like helping people, but we're comparing enabling versus anything else, really, essentially.
Yeah. And actually, like, when you help too much, that is a form of enabling. And we can get into kind of what that looks like. And that's why I want to talk about it, because it really is a hazy line. And showing up as a good person and a good friend, a good daughter, a good partner, a good whatever, mom, because I'm going to use some examples to talk about parenting and partnership too, which I think is really important, because we do become very self-sacrificing whenever it starts to come to that. And so that is enabling. On the other side, I would say, is empowering. And so you're giving people tools, you're giving access to resources, you're helping teach them skills, you're giving them the power to help them solve their own problems and make their own choices.
I think that could be enabling too, to a degree. For me, I would think that a big difference in the two is the other party's interest, willingness, and in them moving the process forward. Or like, so for example, because I've been in spaces maybe where it's like you kind of take on feeling like, okay, let me help them. You know, knowing you got your own stuff you can figure out, but like, let me figure out them. And so you maybe spend some time, find a list of like, well, have you thought about this? And have you thought about doing your LinkedIn, and here's some jobs and blah, blah, blah. And that's helping somebody. But also it's like, if they didn't ask you, or if they didn't say, hey, I know you're good with this, like, what do you think about this? Like, I think that can make a big difference, is you deciding that you're going to help somebody, or that you're doing something for somebody, as opposed to somebody actually looking for answers, looking for something, wanting to earn what they're getting. I think that is a big thing. I know, like, in Kabbalah, for example, like, I was reading something recently, or heard something, and it's all about like how in life, like, it's not necessarily that things need to be so hard and tough or all of that, but you win when you earn a thing, and you gain more when you earn a thing. Otherwise, like, let's say like if you give a kid $1 million, like, that's not going to go nowhere, like, because they don't know what to do with it. And so you're not empowering anybody if they do not, to your point, have the tools or desire to want to do something with it. Facts.
And by continuously doing things when they don't have a desire, that's very obviously enabling. But I love your point about them kind of having ownership or buy-in to a thing. So there's a nonprofit that was offering free like health services to some third world country that's not the U.S. but a different one. And they used to just do it for free, and people would come sometimes and they wouldn't show up for appointments, and they didn't really ask any questions. They kind of just took whatever was given to them because it was a handout. They started charging people a sliding scale from like $0.05 to $5. And even the people paying $0.05 started asking questions, started showing up on time, because there's something about having skin in the game that makes you care a little bit more.
It sure does. Like, when you invest in something, you have a different level of respect around it, and value. You perceive a different level of value with it. So what has been your experiences with being a person who is on that enabling side, or like trying to save somebody?
Yeah, and it's interesting because you don't look at yourself like that. My first instance was thinking about my mom. Like, I used to, when I worked in engineering and I had more money, I used to give her money, help pay bills and stuff. And I want to be a good daughter, and I know she was having a hard time, and like, so I gave. But I think the line is, I was giving more than I could. Like, I was making myself uncomfortable by giving. And then it would feel anxious. It would also, like, every time she would call, I'd be like, oh my God, does she want something? Like, I don't know if I have it this time. And it started to like become something in our relationship. I almost didn't go to business school. I was so scared to leave because I thought if I left, like, who's going to take care of my mom? And that's when I realized, oh, you have to leave now, because this is crazy. Like, this is crazy, girl. This is your life. And she, worked really hard so you could have your life, and I was willing to sacrifice that to take care of her, which sounds crazy. So I didn't. So I left, and I couldn't financially help anymore, and didn't. And our relationship was fine, and we grew, and like, that's a big thing. But I've noticed, like, by being someone who understands how hard life can be, and having been through a lot, like, I tend to give people a lot of grace, and sometimes too much. And I then to help them, but then I start doing too much, and maybe things they didn't ask for, or maybe putting myself out so they could have a thing. And then that's kind of been my relationship. It's a lot healthier now, but it used to be real bad.
Yeah, and that's a tough situation to be in, because you do want to like make sure your family is good. I know a few people who have that same story, and recently one of them, I was like, are you still finding yourself having to do a lot of help? Because they found themselves, losing their job. And over all the years, I would always, you know, you had to be kind of gentle about it, but I always kind of try to allude to like, so at what point, like, do they figure it out? Or like, do you not hop in? And now I checked in and they were like, yeah, I told them I can't do X. And I'm like, and everything's fine, isn't it? Like, you know, the mom got a different job and is taking care of stuff and all of that. And sometimes you have to give people the space to stumble so they realize, oh, I need to change my shoes or like do something different. And also, I think what's most destructive, maybe not most destructive, I was just saying that, but what is destructive about enabling is that oftentimes it comes at a lowering of yourself in priority. So if, you know, the point of your life is you being like in the right space to get things done or take care of yourself, be healthy, accomplish whatever, now you're putting so much energy into somebody else or into other people as opposed to yourself or to your own detriment. And, you know, we've talked about this and you always say about like you can't fill anybody else from your cup if you're empty. So it's like being able to reframe to a point where really like we should be taking care of ourselves, like at the very most. And however you can assist or help other people, cool. But kind of going out of your way to do so, or like, and then there's people, we haven't really talked much about this yet, but like people who are directly like manipulative or like they try to use you, right? Like there are people who, you know, they know that you're going to say yes or do a thing and they just know they can always come to you. So that's not really a place you'd want to be either.
It's not, but you said it perfectly. Me learning to pick myself first, to choose myself first and prioritize my needs is really what changed everything. And one of my other favorite quotes is like, if you want to change the world, change yourself. Like even if you are, you know, your heart is hurting for the world because there's always a lot of crazy stuff going on and you have these causes. Like I work with kids, like that's a big deal for me. I work with people who are disabled physically and mentally. That's a big deal for me. But I wouldn't be able to help them if I'm not okay myself. And that sounds crazy, but it really is. You have to start there with yourself.
Yeah. And so we have some pointers that can guide if you know you're supporting or if you're enabling or if you're trying to save somebody or if you're actually empowering them. So the first one and the first thing you could think about is this a pattern? So especially like with the story that Carlie just gave and for many people where you get in a pattern of giving financial assistance or you know they're going to need a little extra help with a bill or something like that. If it's something that happens every so often, I know online for a while people were trying to be funny because they would always call out certain women who would be like, men don't never want to step up. And people be like, well, it's about the first. It's time for that rent. And it is interesting because there has been a lot of influence from sex work on women online where you notice like where people do start to expect like, well, I asked this guy to pay my rent and I never heard from him again. It's like, sis, it was a first date. Like, that's so
crazy.
out of bounds.
That's crazy.
And there are people who are really like thinking that that's how things can be, not recognizing like that is a particular profession and like a lifestyle that also you are probably not ready to be in or familiar with. So just think about the things that are like persistent ask and things of you. Like, if it is a pattern, then you're probably enabling because you're not seeing any chance for growth.
And you're taking away their ability to learn to provide for themselves, as hard as that can be. Not saying if they out on the street, you can't let them sleep on your couch, but if you start to fund their whole lifestyle, that could become an issue. Another one, and I was talking about parents and partners, is taking on more than your share of responsibilities. And so if you, like there's an example, like if you have kids and they have chores, but you know, like they just need time to be a kid, so you don't really make them do their chores, and you always end up doing their chores for them, but then you actually end up leaving all your stuff on the back burner, like you had to finish something from work when you got home, you wanted to go work out, you didn't do this, all because you're doing stuff for other people. Like you are enabling them and putting yourself on the back burner.
And you're also enabling somebody if you're constantly tolerating problematic behavior of whatever kind it is. If you're just like, oh, that's how they are, or never expecting them to learn, be better, change, treat people better, then that's very enabling behavior.
And that goes into like making excuses for people's behavior and or lying or covering for them. Like, oh, you know, if your partner freaks out on you in front of your friends and your friends are like, whoa, what's going on? You're like, oh, well, he had a very stressful day at work and, you know, this. And you just start to let it become a norm, or you start lying to yourself about it, lying to other people. Like, you're enabling that behavior.
And also, similarly, minimizing situations. So if you're suspecting somebody has an issue with something, drug use, alcoholism, I remember one time my friend Jessica in college, I forgot what happened. Wait a minute. I just had a total flashback. And they were like, I think you have a problem. And I was like, what? But also, I did used to be in the Belk Library with my liquor and vodka and orange juice. Like, what y'all working on? Because I didn't ever have to study or nothing. So, like, they used to be so mad. Like, let y'all never try. Like, you just get A's. And I'd be like, what y'all on? We lit over here. But I remember one time she was like, do you have a problem? Anyway, but you may be enabling somebody if it's like, all right, now you see, and actually I know people like this too. You see empty bottles under their car seats. Like, you see, you know, and they're like, oh no, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing this. But you see the stuff and you don't address it. You don't bring it up. You don't even really accept what's real. That's definitely enabling behavior.
Yeah, and if you really love someone, you say the hard things. You ask the questions. Like, that was love for her to be like, hey, bro, you good?
Right.
Are you okay? Let's talk about it. What's going on? Going more into self-sacrificing. Like, if you just pattern-wise consistently feel yourself, like, getting worn down, trying to take care of people, trying to overhelp, trying to over-explain, like, you're really just allowing people to concretely finish their behaviors and just do what they do without changing.
It's always those I have a big heart people that's like always playing that string, like on their tweets and posts and stuff. And they're like, when I see certain stuff, I immediately be like, this person's a people pleaser. This person's an enabler. This person X, Y, Z. Because it's like you're trying to convince yourself. But yeah, you take care of yourself first. If you find yourself avoiding or denying problems, and also like just if you're just not good at maintaining boundaries, you may be an enabler as well. You're just letting people do kind of what they want to do. So then there's different ways of enabling. The one is like you just kind of let things happen, and then enabling is like also like you're actually feeding into it as well, like helping with it, thinking you're helping somebody when you're not.
Yeah, and it's not saying any of this is easy because, you know, if you love someone and you see them having a hard time, you want to help, you want to be there, and also not working so hard that they don't have to deal with the consequences of their own actions. Like, so I would also say another way you can tell if you're empowering someone or enabling them is if, one, you're not following through on consequences of something you said for them, like could be kids, partner, like friend, whatever, if you're not following through, but also not allowing them to then eat that for their, I remember my mom used to pay my stepdad's child support. Like, girl, what? The moment she stopped, he got extradited to Kentucky. Like let's talk about letting people do things. Like, I understand helping, but also enabling terrible behavior. Like, he might have to sit in that jail for a little bit to figure it out.
And it is tough to do. Why is that so tough, though? Can we talk about that for a second? Because thinking about those situations where it may be like an ex or a relationship, or, you know, even a family member where it's like, man, you want to like love them so much, or you want to be like, okay, this is okay. And because I know I have exes where it's like, well, they still owe me money, and or at the time it wasn't even like a loan, but like I helped them with some things here and there, or I was the one like only one who had the car, so we went to whatever. And it's like, okay, cool, there's hard times or whatever. And what's really happening there? A lot of times I think we are, our issue is us needing validation. Our issue is this makes us feel good to help somebody. But most of the time that's a signifier that we are not helping ourselves, because all of that time, like I probably could have been using those resources for things of myself. And sometimes under the illusion of saving other people, we are feeding ourselves for feeling good and ego, but we're really not taking care of what we need to be taken care of. And
that's it, folks. Like, if you sit with yourself and if you were taking care of all your things, you probably wouldn't have time and space. And then you could but I think a self-check is a great place to start, because if someone asked you to borrow money, First of all, don't ever get money you can't afford to not get back, like, because that's crazy. But then maybe that's just like, I have a friend who has a strict, like, no money, any type of anything in any friendship. Like, she doesn't loan money, she doesn't borrow money, she doesn't. That's just like her boundary, because she's like, money is a hard thing and I don't want to do that. But like, you have to know yourself so then you can set boundaries and respect yourself and have better relationships. But I think we get into these, situations because we want to feel good. It could be our ego. It could be us looking for love. It could be someone took advantage of us and we didn't know. We were just like helping in a healthy way, and then they were not a good person. So it's not always on you, but I just want you to be able to have your own ownership is not the best way, but have your own autonomy in these situations. Like, make sure when you do give, it's from a healthy place. When you do show up, it is from a full cup. When you are there to love on people, it's not anything that's going to build resentment, because also, even in like continuous relationships, you start resenting people whenever this happens, and those aren't healthy or good relationships.
In the same way as at the beginning, I was talking about how people need to earn. In the same line of thought, they also talked about that too. What's the last thing you just said?
That you need to give from a resentment.
Yes, that anybody you're saving will resent you. There is no, especially like there's no man where you are helping them or whatever that does not. It turns around as soon as they get good. They don't want to be around you because you're like a shame kind of, and like. Anybody you're saving is going to resent you. People like to build themselves. They like to provide themselves, and they need that space to do that. One other thing I want to just bring up, but not go into it too crazy, is that also be careful with what you call empowerment. We're kind of focused more on like what could be enabling, but also I think that there are some things that I have seen under the guise of empowerment that really are. Like, actually, sometimes somebody just need that money. Like, when you talk about maybe, like, homeless people or something, it's like, well, I'm going to give them these celery sticks and da-da-da. Or, I don't know, just doing stuff where it's like, nah, bro, they just need some money to go to the store. Like, and sometimes we think we know what's best for people. And so, like, we're trying to take them through all these loops. And so I think that there could be a thing with that, too, where it's like, you think you're empowering somebody, but really you're probably, like, on a power trip.
Bro. Oh my God. And that happens so often in nonprofit communities and outreach, like people who don't actually understand people, shoving phones in people's faces to give them $2. And like, yeah, just don't do that. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that does happen. Like, anytime you think you know what's better for somebody in a situation, check yourself and your ego.
Yeah, because it's one thing, like when we're talking about not being an enabler, to just say no. And then there's another to like, now you're going to do something that they're not asking for. Like, just distance, just say no. So that's one of the things you can do to stop being an enabler. Just practice saying no. And that can sound like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't even have it at this time. Or it could be like, that's not something I could do at this time. I remember somebody I had asked, this is a long time ago, but something was going on, and I asked if I could borrow something. And they were like, no, I can't do it this time. And I was like, cool. I figured it out. I don't remember what I did, but I figured it out. But I was like, okay, like, I didn't feel no kind of way about that. Like, we still cool or whatever. But this was a real downtime, because what it was is like they had already given me something before. I'm sure I paid it back, because I always pay people back. But after a while, they were seeing like, okay, girl, like, you need to figure something out if you're running into this problem every month, or like, whatever that is, you need to figure it out. I'm sorry, I can't be part of it. And so you can respect somebody saying no.
And that is the next thing on our list of how to stop, is to bring attention to the issue. So they gave when they could, and then they brought it up and said, hey, actually, you have to learn how to figure it out yourself.
Make it very clear that if you are going to help, you're only doing what you can, and only do what you can. Don't go above and beyond. Oh, man, that just reminded me. There was one time this guy, I was talking to him. There's one time he texted me, he was like, and he never asked for anything, so I didn't feel weird, but he was just like, hey, can you cash out me $100 real quick? Something was happening. And I was like, oh, shoot. I remember I didn't have $100. This is a long time ago, y'all. I remember I didn't have the $100. And I remember texting somebody else like, hey, can I borrow blah, 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 so I could send it to them. And they're like, that's so crazy. And then let me come to find out, what did they say later? They said something later like, okay, we were having a conversation about like who are the people you could call and be like, if I asked for 100, would they send it to me? I was like, bitch, if you don't see my money back,
Like the fuck now.
Yeah, I'm like, because in my head I was like, that was goofy. Like I could just been like, no, you know. But what that was, and so going back to like, well, why do we do things sometimes? In that instance, I didn't want to look like, oh, I can't help you, or I'm incapable of helping you, when really that wasn't my role anyway. So I was like, that was so silly. Like I'm over here. People sending me, here's a 20, here's a 40. You would have just sent it to them to be playing around. And also, I don't know if they were lying or not. Maybe they really did need it. I don't know. But when they said that, I was like, send me my money back. And he was like, oh, you ain't have it? I was like, send me my money back, bro. Like, stop playing around. Right. Stop fucking playing. People will just try you just to try you.
And I hate that. And then the most important thing is to really get in touch with yourself first. Check in with what you need. Make sure that you're expressing your needs, your boundaries, and only giving from a place where you can give and not build resentment with people that you love.
Yes. So we hope this episode was eye-opening for you, something for you to think about. Are you enabling other people or are you really empowering them? So this week, as you also from the other side, as you maybe ask for help or think about places where you need help, and as you recognize the ways that you may be helping other people or giving to other people, take an assessment of that to see if you're actually being empowering.
Bye, y'all.